topic that we're going to be talking about today is about God not giving up on us, and
Hmm.
God not giving up on really the process or anything that we're going to be sharing in a moment. So one of the things that I wanted to like introduce and kind of give you like a little what do you call it whenever like you give like an intro. Let's just call it an intro. But you know how like Jimmy Fallon has that 5 minute kind of talking part?
Oh, the monologue. I
Yeah,
think it's a monologue.
yeah,
It's a
that's what
monologue.
Monologue.
I'm not Jimmy Fallon by the way, so it's probably not gonna be that good, but we'll see. All right, so you know how in the beginning, Genesis, God started creating things, right? Everything happened for a reason, and we now know why everything happened that way. Day one, he started creating things. Day two, day three, day four, day five, until day six, he was like, "Oh, hey, you know what? Let's create humans." At the end of the day, there was a process, and he just needed to spend, all those days because he wanted to the things to be perfect. If you think about it, if you put it into our lives, sometimes we tend to judge people or judge ourselves based on what we're doing right now. And I think sometimes, we tend to just kind of, again, judge someone and be like, hey, this person looks like this, or this person is doing that. And, they're probably in day three, God is still not done with them. And so we're still judging them, on day three. And when you know that there's still progress, there's still a way to so with that being said, the first point that we're going to be talking about today is about the process, right? Everything has a process, right? Um, whenever I still remember, when I was a kid, I really wanted to be 18 years old to drive. I really wanted to just like, I'm gonna be 18 years old out of high school. I'm gonna have a job. I'm gonna be independent and blah blah blah. And I'm gonna have my own car and I'm gonna do all this kind of things. And then life hits you, right? And then you start getting bills, and then you start getting
And you realize the gas costs money.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You have to pay for insurance, car insurance. I'm like, what in the world? Like, how did we get here? And you start, just progressing. You start, moving in that lifestyle, and you just keep going and going. So there's a process for everything, right? There's a process for you to, get married. There's a process for you to have kids. There's a whole steps in, or there are different kinds of what's it called, phases in our lives. And I think we don't have to get so like so anxious about I want to be perfect right now, when I'm sure God is still working on me. I'm sure God is still kind of working on you guys. And we need, God's goal is for us to get to that perfect point, right? To get to that day six, and so then we can rest. But we still probably day three, day four, and it's just different kinds of what do you call it? Different kinds of phases that each and every one of us is at. So with
Hmm.
that being said, trusting the process. Like for example, Jose, right? How is the process of getting those muscles that you have, and then or like having a fit routine, or more about that.
Um. Well, I mean, at the beginning, since you don't really know anything, obviously you're gonna struggle at first. It's going to be painful. You're gonna have hard times. You're going to struggle. You're you're probably even gonna fall. But all that is preparing you for what all those small little things that might hurt, that might be painful, that might look like that those small things that might want to make you quit. At the end of that process, they're actually gonna make you stronger, faster, and more more athletic.
Yeah. Steven, you played football, right, in high school? For everyone who didn't know.
Yes.
So
I used to play
how good were you in football?
I was all right.
I was
No, I just broke about 3 helmets. I was okay. I was a good dude. I was a good guy.
I can
right,
imagine having like a man like Steven coming at me, trying to tackle me. Boom.
No, Steven was fit during that time, man. Like
It was a fun time. Look, and like speaking of process, going back to that, like you know how God worked the days when he started the days doing the beginning. You know, he did the light, he did the darkness. He started with the oceans, and he went through a process until he got to us, right?
right.
So the process is beautiful. Let's say I could say my high school process was awesome because I enjoyed it. I played football, but to be honest, that wasn't what God had meant for me. When I thought at the moment, that's what God meant for me. So, you know, through the process of going to high school, you know, I was playing football, and then, you know, my biggest dream was to go play professional football. You know, I had a scholarship to go play I had a full ride scholarship to play football, but in the process through that, I got injured and I wasn't able to fulfill what I wanted to do. So that process was like a breaking point for me because I was like, it was, you know, first thing that comes, disappointment, you know, regrets. You're like, man, I worked so hard for this and now this happened. It just took 2 minutes and I was out and that was it. That my whole 4 years of playing football went down the drain. And you're like, man, you get mad, you get frustrated, and then you don't see it at the moment. You don't realize it because you just live in the moment, but you don't know there's a process through that. So me thinking that, okay, it's over for me, that's it, you know, all my hard work it was in vain, and now I'm not gonna play professional football because I can't do it because I got a torn ACL and I got minor ligaments that got fractured and I had to have surgery. So the recovery time was the time that I had to go play football for college. So it was gonna be impossible for me. So so I felt like that was like a breaking point. But I saw that, but God had a different story. You know, through the process, I realized what God had for me was greater and bigger, and I didn't see it until I went through the process, passed through the process, and now I see where I'm standing. And I look back, and I'm like, you know what? This is awesome. Where I'm at right now, I wouldn't imagine the stuff that I'm doing, that I know, or that I have. It didn't cross my mind that I was gonna be able to get to this level. And then you realize that the process that we go through, God, are good. Processes are very, very good. But here's the thing: we sometimes, as a human beings, we forget and we only see the present, but we don't see what's ahead of us. So when that happened to me, when I was playing football, when I got injured and I had to get surgery and all that stuff, I feel like that was my breaking point. That was it. That I was done. There was no more hope for me. There was nothing else. Stephen Curry. That was I pretty much said, oh, that's it. I'm not doing anything else. I'll probably go work at McDonald's.
Hey,
You
I
know,
did that. Don't judge.
hey, no offense, bro. No offense, but like I'm saying, like you know, you just think the worst. You think the least of things, and then you don't realize the greater and bigger things that are ahead of you.
Yeah.
So now that I look back at those years, I'm like, man, the processes are good. You enjoy the processes. And if I wouldn't know how to enjoy my process, I bet you that I wouldn't even feel that the process was hard on me. I would just enjoy and go through it and see what God was gonna take me to. But since we close ourselves into our minds and say, okay, that's it. You know, that's it. I'm done. I can't do it. You know, I'm not gonna get that job. I'm not gonna be able to go to that college that I want to go. I'm not gonna get that scholarship that I've been trying to. I've been trying so hard to get, or I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting that car or whatever you were asking, and you're like, and you see that everything closes down, and you're like, oh, that's it for me. But you don't know that God has a process for you. You don't know that God wants you to learn first how to appreciate things before He takes you to what He really has for you. And that's one of the things that I love about processes. Processes really teach you how to value things, how to value everything you went through, and how to appreciate where you came from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm sorry if I went all gospel and preaching here, but you know,
Good, man.
that's a topic that I like because processes are good. Processes are very good for everybody, you know, and like the only advice I can say, enjoy the process, even if it looks like you're going backwards. Enjoy the process because at the end of the day, when you look back, you're gonna be happy and fulfilled that, oh man, you know what? It was worth it. It was all worth it. All
Yeah,
the pain, all the struggle, all the tears, it was all worth it.
right.
So there goes my small testimony there, guys.
No, you're right. And the process are the best part. I think is the best part of life, right? Because that's when where you start getting experiences and you start really learning about life, right? And then you can teach other people.
Yeah,
With that being said, though, it's that's the hardest part about the processes is the waiting period, right?
yeah,
So, for example, I'm not gonna say that I'm a very like what's it called, very patient person. So like for example, like I can be patient with people, right? Like, oh, it's a kid, it's okay, or it's that person he probably doesn't know. But I'm not gonna be patient with like other stuff. Like I'm very impatient. Like for example, when it's a date, and then I want to get to, no, like when getting to a date, like not dating, but like wait,
oh, I
getting
thought you said in a day, bro. You can't be like that in a day.
much more things have happened, but what I was trying to tell you is, being patient is very important doing, especially if you're in a process.
Yeah,
I like for example, the miracle, the very first miracle that God did, or Jesus did, sorry. With the turning water into wine, people who
yeah,
probably, so backstory, they there was this big wedding, and then everyone at the party were in, but I mean they were there, they were celebrating. Before they will actually give out the very the best wine at the beginning,
yeah.
towards the end, because people will get drunk and then they wouldn't feel the difference between a good wine and a bad wine. And so
Cheap wine, cheap wine.
yeah, uh, hey, I'm not an expert on that, so but and then towards the end, Jesus turns water into wine, right? And so people who probably kind of left the party and just kind of missed out on that miracle. And if you think about it, like a lot of people who probably are in the process and leave the process because they're like, hey, you know what, I'm done with this. No one's got me, like,
Yeah,
and
you give up.
fighting by myself. And then you don't know, you might miss a big miracle, or whatever, or the plans that God had for you. And so you missed out on that. I'm not really sure. Like I was sharing with you guys, like I'm patient, in different areas, but sometimes like processes, it's very, very, very hard for me to be patient. But sometimes you just have to go through them. But what do you guys think, Jose?
Huh?
Yeah, being being patient for stuff that you want to achieve or have is something that becomes let's say there's a time where you like get very how do you say in this this
Desesperado.
yeah, and you you, and you start to like think negative thoughts, and then for example during school, like there was many times during my early beginning of high school years, during the beginning of my middle school years, where I would get like in a lot of trouble because of the people that I hung out with, because of the things that about the wrong things that I was doing, but I but all that was setting me up to be someone who I am today. Because of that would have never happened if I would have thrown in the towel at that moment, saying you know what? Because there was many times that honestly I thought about I was having suicidal thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Um, but all that was just a process, and God knew what He had at the end of the road for me, and that road still hasn't finished till this day. He keeps on working with us each and every day.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, his timing is never too late. He's always on time with everything, even though what you want seems very, very, very far away. He knows what he has for you, and he will give you what you want when you want and what you deserve at the time that he fits best that he can give that.
Hmm. Yeah, and you
Mhm.
know that goes. I'm sorry, Steven. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
No, no, I'm not saying anything. Go ahead.
No, I, I
Huh?
saw you very, very impatient there. Like you're like, oh my gosh. I'm like, okay, there's not that kind of people that kind of have that patient mind. But are
I
you?
am patient.
You are patient.
Yeah, I am patient.
All right. No.
Life,
What I was
life has taught me how to wait.
wait. What?
Life has taught me how to wait.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm very patient too. I
I
mean,
really agree with what Jose's saying. Yeah, like the processes are so they can be real tough, and like get into situations that they're like they can become life or death sometimes. It's like you're like, man, but it's like everything happens for a reason, and you see when God's hand moves on your life, like you realize you're like, oh man, es like you te desahogas del proceso y dices, oh, thank you God, I knew you had my back, even though it was at the last minute you came in and you got my back. It's like it's like when they put it's like when you save the best soccer player or football player. I'll say both. For the last minute, you put him in, and then all that dude does it goes in there, just either does a touchdown or makes a goal. And you're like, oh, finally, yes. It's like that relief. It's like that relief when God comes in and takes care of the things or the situation that you're in. You're like, oh, thank you, God. Yes, please, thank you.
yeah, man.
It's that
Yeah,
processes they're always good when you have support from God, man.
I agree, man. I agree. It's just just um, what's it called? Being persistent and just kind of keep just keep grinding.
Yeah, and not giving up when all hope seems lost, because God is still working for you even during those times where you think everything is lost. He knows what he's doing. Don't stop believing in him. Like, he knows each and every step that you're going through, and he will never leave your side at any moment.
Yeah, that's right. So with that being the problem, I guess with being patient, which is going to be our third point. It's the pressure that goes with that. Because you can be very patient, right? But you're gonna get to a point where you better find results, right? Like you can't just be patient and be patient and not see any results, because at the end of the day, it's like what have you been waiting for, right? So we see, like,
Hmm.
uh, before we started recording this, we talked about the story where Moses had, was leaving, or was taking the people of Israel to the
Yeah.
promised, and they had to go through through the sea, and then the people, the what's it called, the Egyptians, is it? Uh,
Egyptians.
yeah,
Egyptians.
I was gonna say Egypt, like like what? So they were chasing them, and they were facing two different kinds of pressures, right? They were facing the pressure of going through the sea, and then they were facing the pressures of, of the people that were chasing. And so, you know, they had two different kinds of pressure. And I think, you know, once you were being patient, God, you know, even Moses, you know, Moses was super patient with the people of Israel. But there was a time they was like, okay, enough is enough. Like, oh my gosh, like I'm done with you guys. And so, you know, because of that, he missed out of, you know, obviously, or, you know,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
stepping into the promised land. So with that being said, you know, the pressure that we receive from all, you know, all different areas. In my case, I think, you know, I am getting to that age where, you know, people are gonna start asking, hey, when are you gonna get married? Hey, where is your girlfriend? Right? Uh, my family, you know,
I feel you on that, bro.
huh?
I feel you on that.
Yeah. Sooner or later, I'm about to start hearing those kind of conversations, you know, and you're just gonna have to be like, hey, I'm just being very patient here, you know, trusting the process, trusting what God is gonna do, and you know, it's just, you know, it's you know, exciting time, you know, and I could just kind of avoid that question like that, right? But at the end of the day, you know, we all, I think God shines the brightest once, you know, the pressure gets, you know, bigger. The
Yeah.
bigger pressure, the you know, the brightest that God shines. And
Yeah.
we have seen this, you know, throughout, you know, all the kinds of different stories in the Bible. You know, with Moses, with Daniel, with, you know, all, you know, the people from the Bible, and even in our lives. Just when, you know, you're about to give up, you know, God shows up and he's like, hey, you know what, here I am.
Yep.
And you know, if you think about it, like, we go back to the you know, 6 days that God spent, you know, creating everything. He didn't create us until the very last day, and that's when, you know, the big purpose, that everything that he was creating for, I mean, everything that he was, you know, preparing, it was for us, you know, and he created the last day, you know. And sometimes, you know, we need that process, we need the pressure, and we need just to be patient, and just, you know, be patient on what God has for us, and he will shine at the very end.
Oh
Jose,
yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, going back to on going back to what I was saying about in school. It was there were times where my grades were getting very low because of the situations that I was going through at home at that time, and the friends that I was hanging out with at that time that affect the process that you're going through, because we all go through different stages in school. You know, middle school, high school, everything is a process that all of that prepares you for your future. And there's many times where you're where why, because I've seen many of my friends that have dropped out of a high school, and that I met in middle school, that just threw the towel and just decided to drop everything. And honestly, there were many times where I actually thought about doing the same because of the situations that I was going through during those times in the background. Because, you know, we don't we all have, you know, different things that go on without nobody noticing. But God knows everything. He knows your situations. He knows everything that you're doing. He knows everything that you're about to go through. And again, his timing will always be perfect. His timing will never be wrong. Even though even if you're like maybe you have bad grades in the back and you're looking towards your future and you're barely like um about to get there, but you know you're just not quite there, but and you want to throw in the towel and you want to say, hey, I quit
Mm.
until here, but you gotta keep believing in what God has for you, all the purposes that He has for your life, and at the end, and if you do that, you will be very very happy for trusting in Him, and you're going to look back and say, hey, thank you God for because I never stopped believing in you, and because of you is why I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
I completely agree with that. You know, God is always going to be there for us, and you know, just being patient and just um, you know, keep pressing with Him. You know, keep trusting Him that He's gonna pretty much come in the last second. You know, He's gonna save you, or rescue from whatever, or heal you. What about you, Steven? What do you think?
Going back to the being under pressure, being under pressure is a good thing. I don't know if that. Have you ever heard that saying that being under pressure either makes you or breaks you? So I take pressure as a good challenge because when you're under pressure and you know how to deal with things under pressure, that's where you build a character. You build character under pressure. But sometimes we forget. I mean, this whole conversation we'll talk about that. What we're going through. But to be honest, the main key of everything, even whenever you are under pressure, is God. If you trust God, you trust God to take you out of where you're at. If you're patient enough to wait on God, if you're patient, it's limited. If it's unlimited, you know, because because take it like this: if God is patient with us, and we gotta try to be patient with Him too,
Yeah,
because God. Just imagine, just look back at your life and say, how much patience has God gotten? I mean, on me, God has been there on my even when I've been doing the wrong things. He's been there having patience. He still shows me love. Patience grows love. I mean, like, man, when you make what I'm trying to say is, like, when you patient grows with God, man, like, even if you're under pressure, that's not gonna break you because you know where you stand and you stand firm with Him. So, I mean, to add on to this is that what I can say is that patience really builds you up, and it builds you up much greater if you allow God to work through that pressure in you, so that way the result is greater. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end, the pressure, whatever, however it feels, it's good to have pressure because, again, that's, I think in a way, we were wired that way to overcome pressure. Uh,
Hmm.
it's not, just, one pressure this way, or, when everything it feels like it's falling, God is going to be there for you. Um,
Yep.
one of the things that I have pretty much learned is that God is not going to give you enough strength to go through that problem. You Sometimes He's going to give you more than you can handle, so you can depend on Him. Because otherwise, we probably be like, oh, I can do this. I don't have to trust in anybody because I can do it by myself. And sometimes God puts us on this kind of different processes, so we acknowledge it is, and then how merciful He is, how miracles He is, uh, marvelous He is. Sorry, with everything that He does. So
Hmm.
to finish it up, I just have one example, I think, and it's has nothing to do with the Bible, but um, I have started just because of the quarantine. I have started actually falling in love with UFC. So it's
What?
UFC. It's in boxing, just so you know. Um, Usually,
Jose, you got a little competition now, bro.
huh?
You got a little competition now, Jose.
I'm gonna beat you. I'm just kidding. No, I'll never be a Jose, man. Never, ever. So thank God that he has, transformed him into being a nice person. Uh, but when I was watching it, one of the things that I have noticed is, and it happens in boxing too. But what I have noticed here is that there's no the gloves that they use. They're not like super puffy. They're really slim. And so whenever you get a hit, it hits you really bad. Like, you can get knocked out in like 5 seconds, right? But what I have noticed is that and happens in boxing again, the coach is the one who's got a towel, and then you can lose. In UFC, you can lose battles by split decision. They're going to judges, and you can get knocked out, or you can get submission, or different kind of different ways of losing. But there's another way. It's by the coach throwing the towel, right? And I feel like sometimes we even if we're like bleeding, even if we're getting beat up by everything that's going on in our lives, and God has the towel, and God, until God throws the towel, that the fight is not gonna end. And if you're not if you're not giving up, just keep going, keep hitting back, and then just keep defending, and then just keep going, and I think that's you'll prove your coach, which in this case is God, that that you're trusting him, and God is trusting you by him not throwing the towel. So with that being said, I think that's important for us to know, especially during these times, just trusting God and knowing that God is going to come up, even if it's in the last second, even if whenever you're about to give up, God will and come in shine and like a diamond. Um, so you guys have any comments or anything like that?
Not to just keep your trust in God, and whatever you're going through right now, it might be hard, it might look hard, but when you look back at it and know that God was the one taking you through the process, you're gonna be, you know what, it was worth it. All the pain, all the sweat, all the tears, it was all worth it, because
Yeah,
you will see the great result that God has for you. Because like we said earlier, He's never late; He's always on time. So whatever looks late to us, it's not late to Him. So that's the only thing, the only advice I can tell you guys.
Yeah.
yeah. Just always keep being persistent. Don't give up. God's timing will never be wrong. It'll always be right. So keep going. Keep looking forward and never look back. 'Cause God has your back. He's our Father. We can trust on Him, and with whatever we want or we need, we can we can ask Him for it. And just always remember that God loves us. He loves you. He loves me, and He loves all of His children.
Yep, that's right. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you again, and it's just just keep sticking with the process, right? And just uh, there's nothing better than looking back at like different pictures and be like, oh my gosh, like, man, what was I doing here? Like, or what was I thinking here? Knowing that how in a way how poorly you were thinking and making decisions, and now it's like, oh my gosh, God has made so many miracles, like, oh my goodness, and now I'm here. So yeah, guys, with that being said, thank you guys for your time. It was a pleasure, and we'll see you on the next one. Everyone, please comment in the section and like this video, and we'll be coming up next week as well with a different one. So thank you for joining. God bless you. Take care.
Take care.